All right, listen up, because what I'm about to tell you might just set you free. You see, too many men out here are losing sleep, stressing, chasing, trying to figure out what's on her mind, when the truth is, her mind can change like the wind. One minute she's all in, the next, she's gone. And you're left standing there confused, broken, wondering what you did wrong. But let me tell you something. You were never in control of her thoughts to begin with. You can't predict her feelings. You can't control her decisions. So why waste your energy trying? The moment you stop caring, the moment you focus on you, that's when you win. A woman's emotions are unpredictable. Don't try to control them. Men often find themselves frustrated and confused when dealing with a woman's changing emotions. One moment she's affectionate and engaged, and the next she's distant and indifferent. This shift can leave a man questioning himself, wondering what he did wrong or how he can fix the situation. The truth is, emotions, especially in women, are fluid. They are influenced by experiences, moods, external factors, and even subconscious thoughts. Trying to control or predict how she will feel at any given moment is a battle you will never win. Men are naturally wired to solve problems, to find solutions, and to create stability. So when a woman expresses dissatisfaction, doubt, or coldness, a man's instinct is to react, often by over-explaining, over-apologizing, or overcompensating. But in reality, these responses only amplify the problem. Women don't always need solutions. Sometimes they don't even understand why they feel a certain way themselves. Their emotions can shift without warning, and no amount of logic or reasoning can stop that from happening. What many men fail to realize is that a woman's emotions are hers to manage, not yours to fix. The moment you make it your responsibility to regulate her feelings, you put yourself in a weak position. You begin walking on eggshells, analyzing every word and action, trying to avoid triggering a shift in her mood. This is not only exhausting, but also ineffective. The more you try to control her emotional state, the more she senses that you are emotionally dependent on her reactions. This, in turn, can cause her to lose respect for you. A woman needs to feel safe in expressing her emotions without feeling like you're desperate to keep her happy at all times. True masculine strength is in maintaining composure, regardless of how unpredictable she may seem. When a man remains centered and unshaken, he commands respect. He understands that emotions are temporary, and he does not base his worth on whether she is smiling today or distant tomorrow. Women are naturally drawn to stability. If you are emotionally reactive, constantly adjusting your behavior to match her moods, you become unstable in her eyes. On the other hand, when you remain consistent, calm, collected, and focused, she recognizes your emotional maturity. She sees that you are not swayed by fleeting emotions and that you are a man who stands firm in his values. Understanding this truth allows you to navigate relationships with confidence rather than insecurity. You stop feeling the need to seek constant validation from a woman's affection. You stop panicking when her mood shifts. Instead, you observe, you listen, but you do not allow yourself to be controlled by something that even she may not fully understand. This is not about being indifferent or lacking empathy. It's about recognizing that emotional fluctuations are a natural part of human experience, and they do not define the strength of a relationship or your own worth as a man. The more you chase, the less value you have. One of the biggest mistakes men make in relationships is thinking that more effort automatically leads to better results. They believe that if they call more, text more, show up more, and constantly reassure a woman of their presence, she will value them more. But the truth is, the more you chase, the less value you have. Human nature is wired in a way that we tend to desire what feels scarce and appreciate what requires effort to obtain. When a man constantly makes himself available, always checking in, always seeking reassurance, he inadvertently communicates that his presence is not a privilege, it's a given. There's no sense of mystery, no challenge, and no reason for a woman to see him as someone she must work to keep. Instead, she begins to take his attention for granted, and in many cases, even starts to lose attraction. Men often mistake pursuit for leadership. Yes, in the early stages, pursuit is natural. A man who is interested should take the lead in showing intent. But there is a difference between pursuit and chasing. Pursuit is confident, measured, and intentional. Chasing, on the other hand, is desperate, needy, and often driven by insecurity. When you chase, you shift the power dynamic. You give all your energy away, hoping for validation in return. When a woman senses that a man is overly eager, always available, and putting her on a pedestal, she begins to feel a lack of challenge. She may even start to wonder, if he values himself so little, why should I value him? This is where interest starts to fade. Women respect men who respect themselves. A man who chases signals that he is not fully content on his own, that he needs her attention to feel complete. And the moment she realizes this, she subconsciously starts pulling away. A high-value man understands that he does not need to chase. He presents himself with confidence, but he also maintains a level of self-respect. He has his own life, his own goals, and his own sense of purpose. He does not derive his worth from whether or not a woman is constantly giving him attention. Instead of overwhelming her with constant pursuit, he lets the dynamic flow naturally. He allows space for her to invest, for her to wonder about him, for her to put in effort. The key to attraction is not in chasing, it's in presence, self-control, and purpose. When a man knows his worth, he does not feel the need to beg for someone else's attention. He understands that his value does not decrease just because someone fails to recognize it. He walks with confidence, moves with certainty, and trusts that what is meant for him will stay without him having to run after it. Focus on your purpose, not her changing mind. One of the biggest mistakes a man can make is placing a woman at the center of his world. When a man becomes too emotionally invested in a woman's every word, action, or mood, he loses sight of himself. He becomes reactive rather than proactive, constantly trying to adjust his behavior based on how she feels at any given moment. The problem with this approach is that a woman's mind can change. Her emotions fluctuate based on things that may have nothing to do with you: her environment, her past, her personal struggles, even hormonal shifts. If your sense of stability depends on something that is constantly changing, you will always be in a state of uncertainty and anxiety. A man's true power comes from his sense of purpose, his goals, his ambitions, and his vision for his life. When you are focused on building something meaningful, whether it's your career, your health, your personal growth, or your legacy, you naturally become more attractive and more valuable. A man who is deeply committed to his purpose does not have the time or energy to obsess over the ups and downs of a woman's emotions. He recognizes that a relationship is a part of life, but it is not the entirety of his existence. Women are drawn to men who have direction. A man with a mission is naturally magnetic because he does not seek validation from anyone. He creates his own value. When a woman sees that you are disciplined, driven, and focused on something bigger than just her, she respects you more. She sees that your world does not revolve around her, and that makes her even more interested in being part of your journey. The moment she realizes that your happiness and fulfillment are not dependent on her mood, she begins to admire your strength. On the other hand, a man who constantly seeks reassurance, who shifts his priorities based on how a woman feels, will always be seen as weak. If a woman knows that she can control you simply by changing her emotions, she will lose respect for you. Not because she wants to, but because women are naturally wired to follow strength, not insecurity. A man who is too focused on trying to please her at all times becomes predictable, and predictability often leads to loss of attraction. And the best thing you can do is channel your energy into what truly matters: your growth, your dreams, your personal evolution. The right woman will recognize your purpose and be drawn to it, not the other way around. A woman's mind may change, but your mission should remain constant. When you live with purpose, you naturally attract people who respect and value you. You don't need to convince or chase anyone to stay in your life, because your focus, ambition, and self-respect speak louder than words. Emotional detachment is power. Stay in control of yourself. One of the greatest strengths a man can develop is the ability to control his emotions rather than be controlled by them. Too often, men allow their feelings to dictate their actions, especially when dealing with women. They become overly reactive, getting frustrated when she pulls away, feeling anxious when she doesn't respond the way they expect, or even falling into desperation when a relationship doesn't go their way. But a man who masters emotional detachment understands that his inner peace is his responsibility, not hers. Emotional detachment does not mean being cold, indifferent, or uncaring. It means maintaining control over how you react to situations, especially those that are outside of your influence. Many men suffer unnecessary emotional turmoil because they tie their happiness to a woman's behavior. When she's affectionate, they feel on top of the world. When she's distant, they feel insecure and start questioning everything. This emotional roller coaster happens because they are too invested in something they cannot control, her feelings. A high-value man recognizes that emotions are fleeting. Just because a woman is showing interest today does not mean she will feel the same tomorrow. People change, moods shift, and external factors can influence how someone behaves. Instead of allowing these changes to dictate his mental and emotional state, a strong man remains steady. He does not react impulsively or let his emotions spiral out of control. He understands that his inner world is his fortress, and no one has the power to shake it unless he allows them to. When a man learns emotional detachment, he becomes unshakable. He does not panic when a woman pulls away. He does not beg for attention or validation. He does not let a single argument or disagreement ruin his entire day. He sees things for what they are and understands that he is always in control of one thing: himself. Women are naturally drawn to this kind of emotional stability. A man who is easily affected by every little shift in her mood or behavior comes across as weak. If she senses that you are too emotionally dependent on her reactions, she will begin to test you, consciously or subconsciously. She might withdraw affection just to see how you respond. If you panic, become needy, or start over-explaining yourself, she realizes that she has control over you, and once she feels that control, respect begins to fade. On the other hand, when you remain calm, composed, and unbothered, you communicate strength. You show that your emotions are not dictated by external forces, but by your own self-discipline. This kind of self-control is rare and highly respected. It commands attention. It makes people, including women, naturally gravitate toward you because they sense that you are not seeking approval, you are living in your own power. The moment you master emotional detachment, you free yourself from the chaos of external validation. You no longer depend on a woman's attention to feel worthy. You no longer stress over what she might be thinking or feeling. Instead, you remain focused on what truly matters: your growth, your peace, and your own sense of fulfillment. Respect her choices, but never lose yourself in them. One of the most important lessons a man can learn is that a woman has the right to make her own choices, but so do you. Too often, men become emotionally entangled in a woman's decisions, believing that if they just love her enough, prove themselves enough, or do everything right, she will always choose to stay. But the truth is, people make choices based on their own desires, emotions, and personal growth. You cannot control a woman's decisions, nor should you try. Instead, you must respect her choices while standing firm in your own values, boundaries, and self-worth. A strong man does not beg for love, chase validation, or compromise his self-respect just to keep a woman in his life. If she decides to leave, if she pulls away, if she starts acting differently, he does not fall apart. He does not lower his standards, overextend himself, or try to convince her to stay. Instead, he respects her decision and continues living his life with dignity. This does not mean he is indifferent or uncaring. It simply means he understands that a woman's presence in his life should be based on mutual desire, not obligation. Many men make the mistake of losing themselves in a relationship. They start molding their identity around what the woman wants. They change their behaviors, compromise their goals, and make sacrifices that ultimately leave them feeling empty. They ignore red flags, tolerate disrespect, or accept less than they deserve because they are afraid of losing her. But in doing so, they lose themselves first. They become a version of themselves that is dictated by someone else's preferences, rather than standing firm in their own principles. A man of value understands that his self-worth is not tied to any one woman's decision. If she chooses to be with him, it should be because she sees his strength, respects his leadership, and appreciates his presence, not because he begged, pleaded, or compromised himself to make it happen. If she decides to walk away, he lets her go with grace. He does not react with anger, desperation, or emotional instability. He does not try to manipulate or guilt her into staying. He simply acknowledges that she has the right to make her own decisions, but he has the right to make his too. The moment you respect a woman's choices without losing yourself in them, you reclaim your power. You show that your happiness, your confidence, and your sense of self are not dependent on external validation. You no longer operate from fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. Instead, you operate from a place of abundance, knowing that the right people will stay in your life effortlessly. And when a woman sees that you are a man who holds his ground, who does not bend under emotional pressure, who respects himself first, she will respect you more than ever.